fuck? I shaved earlier and I have like whiskers stuck in my shirt collar.
Oh, they're just stabbing you.
And I just get that random stab. And then I go looking for it, like try to like just run my fingernails through the goddamn fabric.
And then stab underneath your fingernails.
And I just don't find it. Dude, weirdly though, this happened. This is going to sound crazy. I was like, we were watching TV or something, me and Tiff, and I felt something like stuck between my teeth.
Okay.
My buck teeth, like my front teeth, you know? And I just couldn't get it out. I was like, is it food or something? And I go in the bathroom and I can't see it. Like there's nothing there. And so I grab like this tiny like hand mirror that Tiff has. And sure enough, dude, it's a whisker that's like jammed into like my gums between them. And I can't do it. And I'm like, Tiff, I need you to do something for me. Cause I have to like bend my head back.
You're
and like, and so she comes at me with some tweezers and pulls it out. It had just kind of gotten jammed in my gums.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was driving me crazy for like too long. I thought it was like maybe
I get some beard or mustache hairs in there from time to time, but never jammed into the gums.
Not jammed into your. It didn't hurt. It just was kind of. You feel like there's something.
You're
moving.
like, what is there?
Yeah.
All right.
What is this about? What are we doing?
Well, we haven't put anything to pasture for a while. So let's put something to pasture.
Let's give something the lead aspirin, folks.
That's right. If you're, dear listener, unfamiliar with this, it's an occasional series that we do where we take ultra popular legends
and we kill them
and we say no more of you.
This one's going to be an interesting one for us though.
Yeah, so some of these have dropped off in the ones that we've done, right? Like we've done Muldrotha, Atraxa. Did we do Golos back in the day when Golos was still legal? I don't remember.
I'm not sure if we did get around to that.
Because I think we had some discussion of like, what's the alternative to Golos? Golos can do any fucking thing you want. So, yeah, but some of these seem to have drifted off over time that we have put to pasture. But you in particular have been passionate about pre-con legends that seem to have shaken out to the top.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, you know, Precons are a highly incentivized product for a Magic player to buy, either because the legend that they've created for it is attractive on its own from the box, or somebody like me and you, where we kind of have a concept of what you could do with it, even though I think that's actually becoming narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
As they kind of make the thing. And then I think there's another layer to it, which is inside the pre-con decks are highly specific commander-focused effects that will probably be expensive if you don't get them at the pre-con level.
Yeah.
Right? Like over time, you know, like, so one of the ones that like comes to mind right off the top of my head is that vampire, where if creatures enter the battlefield and people don't choose to have them come in tapped, you get the vampire tokens that are lifelink with it. It's one hell of a token generation card that people should just treat like a blind obedience, right?
Yeah,
but that card's expensive, and it was from a pre-con.
Sure.
There's a chance that you can get them from boosters, but really though, like that's the place to go.
Yeah, if you want to like assure yourself acquiring it.
Yeah, and there's a surprising number of those staples that have like picked up in price over the years. I wouldn't even call them staples, but they're just strong. You know?
Good commander cards.
Yeah, and then there's just cards that are like custom made for that commander. Like it's clearly
true.
It's clearly their card. It's like their fucking thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess all of this to say that it's not surprising that the pre-con commanders, you know, what I mean is the guys that are on the face of the deck or even their alternative, are popular because new players want them. And established players should do them too if they're looking to get around, you know, if they want those cards, right? Like,
and this is an age-old problem, right? So like if you go to the top commanders on EDH Rec, we have the Dragon. Pre-con. Edgar Markov. Pre-con. I think Ishtola, Knights Blessed, was that pre-con?
Correct,
so
it is.
I think that was.
It's in a notoriously bad pre-con, but that's because she's a bit yoked out of her mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atraxa.
Pre-con, yeah.
Definitely a pre-con. I think Krenko Mob Boss is the first one that's not.
Yeah. Unless you count that starter deck, baby, from back in the day when they were doing that.
Yeah.
Because him and Talrand were the dudes then.
Kalia of the Vast is one of the OG precons.
OG precon, yeah.
And then Miss Bumbleflower.
Miss Bumbleflower. And that is the person that we've got the prescription for today, folks.
So,
speaking of buck teeth,
Miss Bumbleflower is going to
jam some whiskers in between her big fucking rabbit, goddamn buck tooth.
She's going to go out and chew some cud with the cows.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I'm going to make her chew something. That's for real.
Was Sauron one?
No, Sauron is not.
But Vivi Ornatier also not.
Also not.
So, we start dropping off.
The cream floats to the top.
Sure does. So there is a theme with these precon legends, right? Like they're designed to attract.
Yeah, there is a Sauron precon commander, but it's not
this one.
I'm guessing it's not the one you're seeing.
Yeah, Sauron the Dark Lord is number 8.
Sauron the Dark Lord should have been named Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that one.
True story.
The better one should have been called the Lord of the Rings. Like his
Why
set
not?
Yeah, like it's his motherfucking set, dude.
Yeah, with all the abilities. Come on. Yeah, you're right. And
the other one should have just been the Dark Lord.
Should we get into Miss Bumbleflower?
Yes.
Talk about her a little bit. All right. So
how do we want to tackle this? Because you have question. First motherfucking hand experience with this legend. I have candidly not a lot. I haven't actually played against your deck as often. And weirdly, every time I've played against it, we're in some crazy 5-player game. So I haven't really been able to like really register it very well.
I actually like it for 5-player because it's just like there's more options.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. More time for you to cast spells.
Right.
How do we want to go about this?
Well, it's a good question. Let me read the card off, and then I think maybe we can try and get into what some of the top categories or tags are for her. And then I think you did some deep dive exploration of what people are saying on Reddit about why they dislike Miss Bumbleflower. So I think,
and our own Discord a little bit,
and some you generated some conversation in our Discord. You pointed out that the folks in our Discord are maybe not as
they're not the audience for this commander.
Yeah, they're not the appetite for commanders like this, but certainly there are people, if it's ranked number 7 and there are 34,000 deck lists being scraped by EDH Rec for it. So somebody listening to this episode, myself included, has an appetite for this legend. Let me read the legend off, and then we'll look at some tags and get into theories on why she sucks, why she's awful to play against or be around. 1 green, white, blue for a rabbit citizen. 1/5 on the power and toughness. We were just talking about this before we turned on the mic.
There's too much toughness.
Why are these like pretty solid legends getting these big,
massive toughness
huge fucking asses, dude?
It just gives you a lot of time to block. And she gets counters, so it's not gonna happen. But I have to produce a 6 or maybe a death touch or something, or maybe a 5 with first strike before you're going to take damage, dude.
Somebody's out here like, Miss Bumbleflower, what you doing out here with all that ass?
Yeah, sorry, continue reading her.
Anyway, she has vigilance, so she's going to block.
Yeah.
She's going to block.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature.
Mm-hmm.
It gains flying until end of turn, so that ass going to be up in the air if you need it to be.
Yeah.
And then if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards. So a big old vigilant ass that can get up in the air that draws you cards. But the downside is your opponents are drawing cards, right?
Yeah.
The top tags on EDH Rec, which I want to say, I don't know if you feel this way, but when I'm looking at tags sometimes on decks, particularly ones that have so many, I don't necessarily think they're always reflective of what exactly is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll see if it can tell us something. So first, the number one is +1/+1 counters. I don't think she needs a +1/+1 counters theme in her deck to achieve a large number of counters.
Mm-hmm.
She produces them herself, right? Next is Group Hug Following that, we have wheels and cantrips as rounding out the top 4 tags for this legend. Yeah, just as a baseline, maybe we can explore that before we get into people's sentiments a little bit.
Okay.
Big ass, vigilance, going to be hard to get past her.
Yeah.
Right? Like you pointed out, like unless you've got a death touch creature or something huge in front of her, you're probably not getting at that person's face.
Yeah.
And then the 3 best colors for control available to us. So, and card draw in the zone. So like there's a lot to work with for this legend just right off the crack, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are people saying? Though?
Yeah, I didn't have a good sense of like, I can say what our group thinks about it, and it might just because they've had a different experience than I've had. Mine is like, just to get it out of the way, is eventually you've got a really large hand, and when I move to try to undo her because she's gotten fairly large, or even attack you or do any fucking thing, it's met with a permission style effect that I can't get through. Like only another blue player could compete here, and I'm not even sure they'd come away on top of interacting with you for too long. So if I have the appetite to swing out, it's likely going to get fogged or worse. If I have the appetite to try to target her, to either turn her into a bug or send her back to the fucking command zone, or even just do anything, it's likely going to get turned away, countered, stopped.
Yeah.
She's going to gain hexproof. If I try to board wipe, even try to destroy my own board and everyone else's, dear God, like we have to do it because this thing is just fucking massive on the turn. It will just gain hexproof and indestructible in response. And so it just becomes really tough. And the other piece is that a lot of your cards are already strapped with draw a card. So you're walking away with, the cantrip from the card that you cast during my turn, and then plus her like
plus 2 cards
if
I get to 2
that she does. So so me as the opponent, it's becoming, I've only played 3 games against it, but like it's becoming obvious that I really have to just kind of get on your ass quickly, or try to zone her early a couple of times to price her out off of what I'm doing, which is a losing fight. But that's what I'm thinking has to happen. It seems like Brad and particularly Zach, because Zach plays with that precon a lot, actually, with his family. He's carrying that one around.
Sure.
He just doesn't suffer her to live. Like, apparently, I don't know how those precons match up against each other, but it sounds like that's the one to, at least as far as all of the experience that he's had with the Bloomborough precons, that's the one to watch.
Yeah.
So,
which there's some other strong precons in that
Hazel
cohort,
and,
right?
Yeah. Bello. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of experience with those precons, so his is coming from that space. And I don't know everybody else's attitude. I think Cameron is always just like card draw, like on that kind of thing is he's usually pretty leery.
Yeah.
Cameron, once he sees the appetite to fog, he will start coming after you pretty hard, because a lot of his decks are.
Yeah, they want to get across the red line.
They need a big thing.
Right?
So I went out looking for like just kind of an idea about it, because like our Discord kind of talked about it a little bit.
And can I just add like my philosophy before you get into a little bit? Because what I'm trying to do is my philosophy around Miss Bumbleflower, and I don't know if this is entirely shared by other people. I'm sure there's a cohort that do, but my thing is I want to encourage people to try to get into a 1v1 with me. And so I have cards to help you attack other people. I will give you cards to attack other people. I'll give your creature counters and flying to help you attack other people. And as soon as you don't, I'm going to fog you when you try to come at me. Like, that's kind of my philosophy is.
Yeah. I'd guess that most of your cards are like target creature gains unblockable till end of turn, draw a card, or target creature gains flying until end of a turn, target creature.
Or I'll tap down other people's creatures.
Yeah, or target. Yeah. So, but it always has like a rider of draw a card. And it makes sense for this deck because eventually, because she's accumulated so many counters on her, because that's where you're putting them.
Right.
They make sense. They pivot. I try to block. She can't be blocked.
Yeah.
Or she gains flying and is indestructible, or just something, you know? So it kind of makes sense for both sides of this. But yeah, so I went kind of looking around and like different threads about what people are saying. And that's easy to do because pre-con commanders have a lot of conversation around them because everybody has one and wants to work it out. And the sentiment is pretty wild. I think the problem is coming both from the audience of the Bumbleflower deck and actually the pilot. So starting with the audience, they really don't like the interfering nature of the deck, you know? Even if you're not doing what you're doing, I think most people are like opt and card instant speed draw off turn. It just kind of fatigues people to get interrupted during their turn. I think that's just like minimally, even if it's not interaction, right? It's just I'm being interrupted or I'm trying to end my turn or something. So, something like, like I had Mircil the Pretender for a minute. Yeah. And I got up to a lot of stuff where I wasn't doing a lot of things to that particular player during their turn. It's just that, hey, before you enter the turn, I'm going to exile him and put another creature in the cage and activate this ability.
There's an accumulation of the annoyance of my moment the other night was like, Zach started untapping his stuff because Brad finished his turn. I'm like,
you keep stopping. You keep stopping play.
Like, you're not untapped yet. You haven't seen that card yet.
It's annoying. Yeah. And another one is like, one of the ones I've noticed recently is lore hold, right? Like you have to basically hold your turn and go, okay, man, do your thing with your rummage. And then, okay, can I start? Are you going to do anything with that miracle? Okay. Like it's just, it gets fatiguing. Okay. Yeah. Like it gets fatiguing.
As quick as you are, as like, constrained as you are, it's still, there comes a point where people are like, okay.
Yeah. And then I think there's that layer. Then I think there's another layer of people who actually believe that the cards that she's giving to them, they get blinded by that, right? So there's a version of this game where Kyle has given me 4 or 5 cards or something like that. Yeah. And then I go to move and do my thing, and he's accumulated as many and plus this big creature and whatever. And now he has an answers to maybe some of the stuff that he's given me, probably not all of it, depending on the level of play. But it just becomes this like, whoa, what the fuck kind of thing. So it feels like,
which by the way, that's not my attitude, but there's clearly people out there.
If you look at like what the conversation is that they go, okay, well, I'll never do that again. They're not worth it. I can't. There's so much shifting that goes on in the course of a commander deck. It's really hard to know what actually got us there, you know? And so like giving me 4 cards or giving me 2 cards or giving Brad a card, we don't really know what got us there. There's a board wipe. There's somebody ink shielded. They're all over the place. It's really hard to like wind it back.
True.
In your mind. I mean, I guess if you recorded every game you ever played, you could pinpoint stuff, but variability is just really too high. So they go, okay, I'm going to move. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to win or try to win or even just push this other person out who's probably in good health and in good shape because this chick is just like, like the thing about big toughness is you don't even really know how much life it's saving you.
It's true.
There was a minute where I had the 0/8 octopus that was for 2. And I'm like, because it was a vanilla creature, Kyle, I couldn't tell if this was worth it as a commander. So when it was done, the game was over. I surveyed everybody and I'm like, did this matter? And Cameron was like, yeah, that's actually fucking annoying. Right. And I thought about it and I'm like, he has to get to a 9 or evasion to get around this. Yeah. And if I give it flying or anything like that, like they have to produce a lot of damage to not waste their time.
And they have to account for those moments available to them, but you've got mana up and cards in hand.
Yeah. Like, so I think toughness is more, it's one of those things that's like a hidden benefit of having a creature with a lot of toughness because you're not sure if your opponent just is choosing to, like, I'm not vocal about, and I wish I could attack you, but I don't really say that.
Yeah, no one's
just
saying that.
Brad, I'm attacking you for 4. Why? You're open, dude.
Because Bumbleflower has a big
because Bumbleflower is a 1/5 or whatever the hell she is, and I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, like Kyle casts 2 spells and she's a fucking 3/7 already.
Yeah,
like,
so he ends up thinking I'm just aggroing him or something, but I'm like, I'm getting in for chip damage because I'm not a beginner player and I really know I've got to get the damage in when I can get it.
So I actually
you're not a part of it.
I actually had a moment with this in the last game with her where I had cards to encourage people to attack.
Yeah.
But because of that ass, I actually didn't need to use them. I could select for when I want, because truthfully, I want to do early game. I'm only going to be able to play on one person's turn. Mm-hmm. I can't play on multiple people's
You're looking
turns.
to get a double trigger off her to reload.
Yeah, but I want to do it on the turn before mine. I want to hold my mana up just in case, right? Yeah. And I just found, I'm like, she got a big enough ass. Nobody's coming over here. Like I kind of realized, I'm like, I actually don't, like in that early to mid game, I don't need to encourage anybody to go anywhere else. They can't get at me.
Not right now. I can deal with that if it comes out. Yeah, they got to go wide or something.
I kind of like my strategy changed a little bit.
She can get flying out of nowhere. So you never really, So what I'm picking up is they play along or they don't sit there and go, no, I don't want your card or whatever. Because I'm going to do things with you or whatever. I don't know what it is. Like, what are you supposed to do? And then they get surprised at the sudden impossibility or whatever they're encountering, you know? Yeah. So like one of the stories Zach told me was his wife had never played this game before and he handed her that Bumbleflower deck. And everyone's just like, yeah, card draw. Like all of him and his siblings are playing this game. And Zach, who is a more advanced player than them by quite a lot, right? Yeah. Like he has to hang with us and play with us to do his to do his hobby. It snuck up on him. He's like, holy shit, that thing's fucking crazy big. And now his wife's just sitting on all these like cards. I don't know what's in the pre-con. I've never really looked at it, but like he was just like, dude, it just killed everybody. It was crazy. And I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty wild, you know?
And honestly, the set had a lot that spoke to her. The set did.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that layer. And then I think there's the person that comes after that. So that same person goes into their next Bumbleflower game, which they are very likely to do because it's a recent pre-con. If they go to an LGS, they're going to be like, okay, here we go. And now they want to be, I don't know, like not an idiot. And they want to learn from learn their lesson. Right. So they start going after that person. Right. And I think this is where we start to run into like the toxicity. The person that's playing that deck, I think can defend themselves with, I'll give you cards. Why am I getting, I'm your card draw. Why are you, why? Right.
Right.
And they can say, yeah, so I play against Bumbleflower a lot, or I have in the past. And it just gets, you could say it this reasonably. I just don't think it makes sense for my game to participate in your game. Because that's what I have to do.
Right.
So for you to do your thing, for us to end this conversation or end this disagreement, I have to have my game participate in your game.
Right.
Like this Matryoshka doll nonsense where I just get buried alive inside you, you know?
So, I like that. So I'm buried inside of you.
So instead, and not in a good way, not in the way we both want it to be.
Right.
You know? Like I'm like a tick and not a dick. So I don't want to do that. And so they don't want to hear that and that's that, and they'll pivot to somebody else. Yeah. And then it gets kind of like a us versus them situation or whatever. So this, I think, is really where things start to come unhooked between the pilot and the person who's just kind of like trying to play from their experience.
Yeah.
Maybe they already know instinctually, like, yeah, I've never fucked with Bumbleflower or a deck like it, and I'm going in. I don't know. But like what I'm getting is that's the next layer of contention here. And then I think there's that last bit, which is the back to the pilot. They think they're owed something because they're giving out cards. You know, why did you do that? Or why are you doing this? I gave you cards, bro. It could start off like innocent and just kind of like small bean tone, right? Like, they could do that whole BS, like, but I'm giving you cards. And depending on how serious you are about the game or whatever you're supposed to do with that, it becomes less amusing the more we play this game. Sure. Like, this is just one version of something that we've coped with for years. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is a common attitude people have with group hug decks, right?
Yes.
Like, I gave you cards. Like, yeah, but we're trying to win.
Right. So I think that's like the final layer that unhooks this whole thing, is that the person piloting it either believes they really are helping people and don't deserve it, which if that were the truth, I'd feel the same way.
Sure.
Like recently, this is a side story, but like recently, like Tiff has taken in all these goddamn kittens into our house, these 4 kittens.
Yeah.
And I love my cat. I adore the cat that me and Tiff have together. Like she is the best cat on earth, period. I adore this animal.
Yeah.
And when Tiff wanted to do this, because she's obsessed with all cats and all animals, she's an animal person.
Yeah.
I had just kind of like a bunch of hard lines that I just didn't want to have happening when we brought these kittens in. And they're like bottle babies, like they needed to be bottle fed.
Yeah.
The first rule was I'm not helping you with this, period.
Yeah.
don't ask me to help clean. Don't ask me to do anything. This is your thing. I don't bring shit like this into our life. So if you want to do this, it's all you. And this is a convulsive thing that I have with like my dad, you know, like, you know how the relationship with my dad and my mom is that he just does stuff for my mom.
Like if you have a project or something you want to do, that's fine.
Then
it's your project.
Yeah. Like, you know, if you have car trouble or something's blowing up, like, of course I'm there for that. But like, don't fucking bring stuff like this into my life and expect me to, you know.
Yeah.
That was like my first, and like, you can say no, but then I'm saying like, this thing isn't cool. The other thing is that if the attitude of our actual cat changes with the presence of these new animals, like, I don't want this to continue. I don't want Beverly being disrupted by these cats because it's her house, dude.
Yeah.
And we adopted her first. So she's our responsibility, not these animals. I didn't not neuter or spay these cats that wherever these came from. It's not my fault, right?
The spawn of somebody else's irresponsibility, right?
So basically I put all these things down, but the last thing that I put down was I want a date where this is going to stop. Not until they get adopted, not forever. They have to stay in this one room. They will not have free reign of this house because this is Beverly's house.
Yeah.
All of that. And Tiff's like, yes, that's fine. I agree. Shoot. Well, we've got like a trip to Portland coming up. And I'm like, what's going to happen with these animals? Like, no one is going to come here and feed them while we're gone because they have to be fed.
Lined up for adoption?
Or what's happening, right? So she goes back to the charity that that she works with, or the cats belong to them. And the lady's like, acting like I'm a psycho, like I'm killing these. Like, what do you mean? You can't have anybody come look at them and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no. Like when I took these animals, like I told you it's
to get them to they're big enough to adoption.
Yeah. So
like that was the purpose.
So basically she just dismisses everything Tiff says and then goes, well, anyway, keep working on Andy, essentially. Get him to be okay with it.
No.
And so Tiff is like she's the least confrontational person you'll meet, pretty close to, right?
Yeah.
So she ends up walking away, apologizing to me, saying, I didn't set good expectations with her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying my best not to fucking just blow up the whole situation, right? Because, I can't really be, I really don't want contention between me and my wife.
Yeah.
But what's so frustrating about this is there's two things. One, we're taking care of the cats, right? Tiff is like, they're here. Okay. Yeah. So we're already doing you a solid,
right?
Candidly, And then number two is me and Tiff have given that organization a lot of our time and our
cash.
money and cash.
Yeah.
At one point, her charity was so insolvent that she was asking her members for any help that could happen. Please, I need it. Right.
Yeah.
The whole charities, they take in special needs cats, like ones that normally wouldn't be easily adoptable, right?
Sure.
They try to rehabilitate them if they can and get them to an adoptable state, but almost all of them have something going on, and they range from serious to kind of like, I don't know, he has a weird eye, but people look at cats like cars and it,
they're like, why is this cat looking?
So we had, funnily enough, it was a different trip. We had a trip to Tahoe planned, and I'm like, Tiff, if you want to take the money out of our vacation fund and give it to her, do it. But that means we're not going anywhere. I leave it up to you.
Right.
You know me, I hate travel. I'm indifferent. I'm actually going, however this shakes out, fine, But we gave her thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you gave them the Tahoe money.
It was a bougie trip that we were planning, and it's just like all went to her and her stuff. And it isn't her, but it is her thing
for the animals.
So I'm just like really fucking irritated at this entire situation that like I think I had pretty reasonable demands on how this would shake out. I'm trying to be compromising, and you're telling her to come back and work on me, which will never fucking work. Yeah, nobody can work on me.
Go work your husband.
No,
what?
Yeah. She can work on me for maybe 20 minutes, and then I'll wake up from it and we'll be back to where we are, like I'll snap out of it. I'll be really agreeable for a little bit, and then it's all over all at once. And it's weird, dude. I don't know. I think clearly again, and I'm my old self all over again. Anyway, we get it sorted out eventually with somebody else in the group. They're like, oh yeah, I can take them. Like it all kind of shook out because they all kind of hand these cats off back and forth, but God, dude, it was like the level of anger I was experiencing was really heightened because I felt like I did somebody a favor, and one, I'm not being recognized for it, and two, I'm being treated like the fucking devil for doing it,
right?
So
right. Do more for me.
Yeah, do more for me, or ignore all the stuff you've already done. I just don't think this translates to a game of Commander, right? Like she's not trying to beat me at something, and that's the only outcome that we have in this social interaction. Like what's happening here is she's looking out for these cats. Absolutely she is. And that's why I actually have a lot of respect for this lady. Like she'll run people through the fucking, rake them over the coals before she'll even adopt these cats out. She's actually an amazing advocate for the cats. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, take the money and take our time and help. Totally. But don't point that shit at me.
But I like what you're saying here,
don't
though.
Point that shit at me.
That's not a competition, right?
Right.
Like there is a charitable exchange, and that's it.
Yeah, and we can work it out. But in a game of Commander, it's encased in something that's impossible to deal with, right? Like everyone has to try to win the game. I don't know how to play a game. Maybe I go out there and make a deck where I have no hope in hell of winning, and I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
What am I doing there? What's happening? Is that a chaos deck? I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So everyone is sitting down to try to win. They've been planning their deck. They've been reading about it. They've been listening to people like mine and your dumbass, or whoever's whatever on YouTube going waxing poetic about fucking you name it. Like, and then they want to execute on it, right? And so they have all of this expectation, like pulled like this fucking slingshot is pulled so far goddamn back, right? And all of this game is set up to do is snap that shit right in their face. A piece of removal, a blocker they didn't account for, a board wipe that happened at a bad time, or they just get land screwed or land flooded or whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it is so ready to disappoint you, this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will disappoint you.
Absolutely.
You get high on the highs and you get real fucking low on the lows with this game. So then you've got this whole convolution on top of it where I'm giving out cards, and I guess to some people that I was reading in these posts, like they've convinced they really are helping people. There's people that are so against doing stuff like that they avoid those effects like the plague. They don't want to have anything to do with handing out any resource of any kind to their opponents.
Which is a fair perspective, to be honest.
That's a strategy. If that's your thing, that's your strategy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of over Swan Song. Because lately the decks I would want to put it in are wanting to go up over your head and hit you, and I'm like, I can't have this fucking 2/2 in my way all the time.
I have had that thought quite a few times lately. Where
I'm just over it.
I don't want that token to be anywhere.
I don't. Yeah, in a Bumbleflower deck it'd be great, but like it's the one.
No, it wouldn't.
Now she's
because it's a fucking flyer. I can turn Bumbleflower into a flyer.
Perfect.
I can't have you have that
weird?
token.
That was like the counterspell for years.
I like literally it was in my initial draft for this deck, and I was like, wait, no, I can't.
Yeah. So
I have to hit you.
Yeah. That's my unpacking of this thing, is that people have expectations of how it's going to go. And this is every Commander game, but this adds this extra layer of I was helping. And I guess this is, do you want to keep going on this, like a pivot really quick, or where do we go from here?
I want to carry on with it because I have some thoughts to add to it, because I'm with you on it.
Okay. So you can politic with every card in your deck if you really wanted to. There's a few that are difficult to do that. Like no one's going to politic around your heuristic study if you're using it or something. But you can use removal in a way if you want to do this. Some people don't like this component of Commander. It was of this format. It's what attracted me and Kyle to Commander. Actually, is that we played years 1v1 standard style deck, and you don't have these moments where people are blowing the fuck up. You just don't, because it's I'm here, you're here, we're here, we're going to do battle, and that's that. There's not these,
and the life resource is limited.
The life resources, but it's just like the objective is so clear. There's the expectations are so clear. Expect that I'm going to try to bring you to 0. And I expect you're going to bring me to 0.
It's actually a bizarre thing to be like, oh, just don't attack me this turn. Like in a 1v1, could you imagine
remember that pre-con where that kid tried to do that, that pre-release that kid tried to do that with me?
Right.
Yeah.
In their defense, they were a young kid.
Yeah,
right?
I know, but I was like, well, let's set your life to 0 first. Now you show me what you were going to do. And it was that 100-handed creature that could block forever. And it's like, okay, cute. Anyway,
fun.
Go report your loss. So yeah, it was, you're right. It was a little kid, but yeah.
But that like,
but it's just insane. Like it's
only
like,
a kid could ask
it's
for that. It's
amusing
right?
to even repeat it. Yeah.
Right.
Here it's like you could make a case for it. Like, hey, look, I can do this. That helps everybody in a way, and I can make my case, and people can be like, no deal or something.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of setting up where I want to talk about that particular pattern of thinking. We've talked about group hug a couple times on this podcast, but it's worth holding some details of that here with this conversation about Miss Bumbleflower, because I actually think what some people think you can do with group hug, Miss Bumbleflower actually has the capacity to do, which is treat that charity like a microtransaction, right? So what do I mean by that? Like with most group hug decks, or with a lot of the prominent group hug cards, you don't control giving other people cards, right? Like it's a lot of like Howling Mine type effects where they just are upkeeping into cards. I can't transact that with you.
Yeah.
I have to rely on this kind of like small bean attitude of like, oh, I gave you cards, but you gave everyone cards and we're all trying to win and you have no control over your cards giving me card flow. You don't have control over that.
Yeah.
But Miss Bumbleflower does. And I think, to me, you have to adopt a microtransaction attitude with her, because I can give you a card if I cast a spell. And the only expectation I can have around that is you and I having a transaction right now in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Can I encourage you to attack someone else if I give you a card?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is an appropriate attitude to have. You don't owe me anything after this, but if I can have this microtransaction of you attack Brad, I'll give you a card and a counter, and your creature has flying to go attack Brad. Okay, well, now our transaction's done. I have no expectations of later when you turn it at me, we give you a card earlier. No, we already had the transaction around that.
Yeah.
That transaction's over.
Yeah, there's deals and transactions, right? Like transaction is the here and the now, no further.
And I think
if that's really what you want to do, and a deal is something radically different.
Yeah, radically different, right? Yeah. But it sounds to me like it's a lot of people
cashed
are
in at a later date. It's a promise, in writing, I guess, almost. Yeah. Well, I feel like lately
sometimes we need to.
We really do need to put our fucking deals into writing. Yeah.
It seems to me from what you're describing, from like what you've read in some of the Reddit stuff and other things, is that people are bringing this old, dated group hug attitude to playing Miss Bumbleflower. And it's like, you don't even need to. You have a microtransaction in place. Give them the card for doing something. If not, give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
because this needs to be said. She has to give the card away.
She has to give the card away.
Once the opponents realize that you don't have a choice, you have to give somebody a card.
Then you need to develop a philosophy. You need to develop a philosophy
who's going to get the card,
it.
dude. I'm not going to I can just say, I can draw my own cards. I can do my own thing. I don't need your help. And then you'll go to Zach. And if he says the same thing, and then you go to Chris and he says the same thing, now it's up to you to pick who's the right person strategically to give the card to.
Which I think is a big part of this,
it's your
right?
problem.
Like, stop relying on, we had a charitable transaction, so don't attack me. Like, that's not legitimate. Like, you need to develop a philosophy around that. Zach and I were talking the other night about it. Like, maybe, because my thing was, I'm just going to give, if I'm not encouraging somebody to do something for me, I have to give the card to somebody. So I was defaulting to who has the fewest cards in hand.
Yeah.
But we were talking that maybe it's actually just pick one person who doesn't have no max and just fucking flood them.
Something.
Like, you get all the cards. Andy doesn't get cards. Brad doesn't get cards. Just Zach. And Zach's going to be ditching a bunch of cards into his graveyard I've given to him. Like, develop a philosophy around this. But this, like, I'm small bean. Don't attack me. I gave you cards.
Yeah,
like,
it's just not the right.
You're not small bean. You have a fat ass commander.
Yeah.
Who can get up in the air.
That you have to. So for a while, Zach ran Glunch as a commander, right?
Yeah.
And your turn, somebody's got to get treasures. Somebody has to get counters. And somebody has to get a card.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where like none of us were dealing with him anymore. He scrapped the deck.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't earning anything from any of us. He kept giving himself treasures, which is the right call. But who wants a card? Everybody. Who wants counters? All of us. You need to figure out how you're going to do that with.
Yeah.
He ends up just getting rid of it because it's not an effect that you get to choose to maneuver around. So this kind of brings I think it's a criticism I have is they didn't do a good job with Bumbleflower in from the lens of we're going to make a group hug commander.
No,
it's not worded the way it should be. It really should be like whenever an effect you control grants somebody a card or something, which would have made sense for all of the gift mechanics in the entire set. Then you get something.
Yes.
So here's my whole thing about air quote group hug. Group hug is it's an inverted stacks deck, right? A stacks deck to me is I'm going to create a resource deprived, card deprived situation, and I'm going to have some way to just be an inch ahead of everybody.
Right.
If I went to the Olympics and I don't know, cut everyone's fucking hamstrings and blow out everyone's ACLs, I could win it. Right. I could win it.
Right.
There's not a record you have to beat. You just have to beat the people that are there. You have to beat the fastest person that's there.
Yeah.
That's what a stacks deck does, is that it's just a fuck ton of Koopa shells and you're moving like an inch at a time, but no one's moving except for you.
Right.
So it's a long, protracted game where people aren't allowed to do a lot and their game actions are restricted. So something as simple as Derevi, who could untap 3 or 4 lands while everyone else can't do that on their turn, was enough to make a fairly effective stacks deck back in the day. Or Nath of the Guilt Leaf, having a token granted to you for discard when you couple it with
and depriving everybody else of their cards.
Magus of the Void or whatever the hell, or Magus of the one that makes you just, or now Braids, now that she's unlocked. Like, that's the situation. Everyone has to sack a creature. Yeah, but I always have a way to get one back. And so I'm creating this stacks situation. So that's how I see a stacks deck, is you've created a mess, but you're like a little bit cleaner than everybody else.
Yes.
You're the prettiest girl by comparison. You know, as fucked as that sounds, but that's all you're doing. You've made a complete mess of the situation.
Like a Barney Stinson, like ugly goggles type thing going on.
Right. Like you just kind of like, I'm not that hot, but over here I am. So a group hug deck should, I think, look a little like this, where instead of doing the hampering, you're boosting everything, but you have figured out a way to walk away a little bit more than the rest. And so people could get lost in how much is happening with the extra cards. This is way more dangerous than doing a stacks deck. Dangerous meaning for you, the player, right?
You're providing more options to your opponents.
Yeah, so something as simple as, you have a blue-green deck and you have all of the air quote group hug backbone cards, the Howling Mine effects, and you can play extra lands on your turns.
Yeah.
Like, you're very, very likely to be able to play an extra land. So the card draw meeting the land capacity is how you eke out ahead. Like a stacks deck lets you untap an extra land and that's enough. This is a little different in that, everyone is getting a ton of card draw, but unless I have decks that are basically set up like mine, I'm going to pull ahead of them. I'm just going to, because I can put my lands to use quicker. I'm getting double land plays, which normally would take 3 other players for me to get to my second one. Extra land plays are crazy when you have draw, because it's just crazy. You're playing more Magic, like legit. So something as simple as that, or something like, I hate to bring it up, but this always comes up with the Bumbleflower cards, right? It's like something like Smothering Tithe.
Yeah.
It's already really freaking annoying as a commander or as a card when people have their appetite to, but now it's automatic. Like, okay, draw 2. Are you going to pay 4? 2 and 2?
It's the top
2 treasures.
Game changer in
So yes, they're getting extra cards.
Yeah.
But you have a way to do your stacks thing.
Yeah. So like
just a little bit more ahead of them.
Each time you go through the trigger cycle, you've put out 2 cards into the environment to opponents, but you've got 2 cards and 2 treasures.
You're getting paid to do it, essentially.
Yeah.
This is how I think a good air quote group hug deck should be constructed, is that it has something in mind to walk away ahead of the situation it's created for itself. It's created a different kind of mess that people might be okay with, but that I think is the only way. If you're relying on people doing you a solid.
But and I think that brings us back to that, right?
I don't know if you're going to have a good time.
The pilot attitude of, I think, both what you talked about of, if you want to authentically build a real group hug deck, there need to be pieces that give you the mechanism for acquiring advantage for doing the group hug, not just simply I get the social charity of you not touching me. Like that's not how a game works.
Because we're here to win the game. And so it's time for me to try to do my thing. Thanks for the, and that's another thing you see on the thread is thanks for the cards. I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And it's like, okay.
Right. which I think you're right. Like Miss Bumbleflower doesn't do a good job of pointing you in the direction of, if you are going to give cards away, there needs to be a way for you to get more than what you're giving away. Or what I'm talking about is the transaction is over when it's over, right? Like if I'm giving you the card, either I have a philosophy on why I'm giving it to you, or I've transacted a reason I'm giving it to you. Like
otherwise, play Brina.
Yeah.
It's almost the exact same effect.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, attack somebody else, you get the card. Blah, no conversation.
So this pilot
people
thing,
go, ooh, I probably shouldn't do that because this thing's gonna get fucking huge fast. It's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I want to say about her is, you mentioned at the very beginning, is her color ID. Like, I think a lot of she wouldn't be all the way there, but I think a lot of what I think people dislike about her would not be there if she was just fucking Selesnya.
Yeah.
The fact that like the impenetrability of counter magic to the other colors after so much time has passed and so much card equity has moved into that person's hand. Yeah. And now it's coupled with counter magic.
Yeah. Because there's plenty of game manipulation in green and white, and blue just gives you straight up.
Yeah. So now you're introducing Dovin's Veto. I mean, render silent if you have the appetite to shoot it. Like these are really strong cards.
Yeah.
And then this is to say nothing of the game changer battery that exists in these three too. So like it's the fact that she's banned pushes her really over the edge. I think if she was Selesnya, it's like, you'll keep her alive. You still have the fogs.
And you'll keep yourself alive.
You can do the thing with the counters. The counters care. Like if you cared about counters, those are there. It's that last bit of like, why the fuck? She gets herself flying. Like, it's crazy.
And it can take you by surprise even as a player, right? Because like,
you could say that about a lot of commanders, I suppose. I don't know.
Like the other night when we were playing, Brad was playing his Saruman that gives you access to cards out of graveyards on your second cast, right?
Yeah, he mills them and then he can go after them.
I was getting nervous about that because I had milled 2 counter spells into my graveyard. So I was like, Brad has access to counter spells whenever he wants. But so I was super nervous. I'm like, I have a counter spell in hand, but he has access to a counter spell. So if Brad sequences this correctly, and Brad's a really fucking good player.
Yes, he is.
He will. He's going to come out on top of that transaction. So I was getting super worried, but then when I really sat back and thought about it, I'm like, oh, but the timing has to work for Brad to
be able to
get it on the second spell, right? So like, I actually can dance around it, and there was a moment where that played out.
So wild. His commander is 6 goddamn mana, and yours is like
mine was 4. And
it's so cool.
So like, there was a moment where I'm like, oh, I actually am in charge of this dance. You know, like he could access one of my counter spells, but it played out that he couldn't get it at the right sequencing. So I came out on top with my counter spell. And I was like, oh, even when there's another blue player that can access a number of cards, I'm still in the better position.
Yeah.
It was, it's bizarre. So I think you're right. Like, she'd be pretty potent, pretty good without blue.
Yeah. I think another criticism that other people, I don't follow this criticism too much because I think it's becoming less of a problem you can solve, I guess. And sometimes I like it this way, but some of the things that was coming up when I was seeing was the whole game plan hinges around her. If she's dealt with, like, if an edict hits her, that player has just gone to pieces very fast.
Yeah.
That is a lot of decks. I'm like the first person that'll tell you to like make a Voltron deck because they fucking rip. They're cool. And that's essentially the same concept, you know? So I don't know, but that is something. If you want a tougher experience, she has maybe that's why they were like, she's got to be banned. Like once the world figures her out, I don't know. Like,
well, yeah, because I'm like,
crazy.
My initial build didn't have counter spells in it, but I was like, well, I need a counter spell for those edicts.
But Bant is such an impenetrable color when it has the mind to do it.
Because I was like, I can stop people from destroying her, from exiling her. But I was like, blue's the way to stop that other end around of sack a creature.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think she would fit in a better space.
So I guess before we move away from this and move into actual decks, I think the takeaway for me is if you're a Bumbleflower pilot, maybe some of what we said sets you off or whatever, but maybe it's hard, right? Like to kind of, what would you do against your Bumbleflower deck, right? Like, what would you do? I'm sitting here saying like we've had Xyrus. That was a thing before. Like that was a commander. It still is. Like we all kind of know. What would you do as the opponent of your own deck? And if I was sitting down and piloting this deck, I think the first thing I would abandon is that anybody owes me shit.
Yes, they don't.
They're already spending their time with me. They've already spent their money on this silly hobby. In the case of my friends, to like interact with me more, like to play and do this thing, you know. No one owes me shit, and that the objective is that we're both trying to kill each other. That's the thing. And then I think the next thing I would do is that, right? Like it is a transaction. If you want to try to offer something like that and just try, then do it. And then the other thing is, remember, you chose a commander where you don't have a choice. You have to give the card away to somebody.
Yeah.
So you figure that out. Don't burden me with your bullshit, dude. It's not my problem. So if I'm the guy that's sitting next to the person you're talking, do you want a card? What are you gonna? I don't want. No.
Yeah, like
I don't want it. Then
I know
I don't want it
for myself. I've built it so that for a while I'll be able to have this transaction space exist.
Yeah,
where I can offer people something. But I know the moment is coming that nobody wants to transact. So I'm gonna have to change what I'm doing, right? Because
it's where the evasion cards come in, and
like
the fogs and everything.
There's nothing that I can offer you that you're like, yeah, I want it. I know you're gonna have to give a card away, Kyle. So I'm just going to sit back and make you give the card away.
Yeah. And if all of these like social things are gone, do you even want to keep this commander?
Exactly.
If is this really the one? It's a fucking bunny, guys. Like, is this really the one? We've got so much shit out there. Like, is this the one that you're going to like die under? Is this bunny
and
weird
she's so
furry?
Fucking
like,
silly. Like my custom categories when I first made the list were, my imagining was that she got a side job working as a crossing guard to get a little extra cash. So all my categories were like, go, children, go. Stop. Like,
yeah.
And it's just like,
it's an adorable card. It really, like the art, they killed it. Even their like alternate thing, like it's an adorable looking card, right? Like I'm into the furry thing as much as the next guy, I guess. But like, this isn't, to me, this one's not worth all of this. Like, all of this packed into it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I'd rather just move on and yeah.
I
already tried. I played Brina for like a whole 2 games, and it was just clearly like, this is not, it's going to be up to me to do all of the stuff with this. So
the velocity of Brina acquiring counters is much faster than this Bumbleflower.
But they're analogous. She's less colors. She's black, white. They're a pretty good thing to compare to each other, to my mind.
I think so,
especially the way you've constructed of like, would you attack someone?
Yeah, because it's like
Brina's saying
go
the same
elsewhere,
thing.
get cards.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah. I have a couple deck lists as alternatives. I don't know if I can present these.
I sort of do. I mean, I'll talk quickly about my experience with the ones that I've dealt like that are a group hug-ish.
Okay.
One, it was, so the first deck that I ever built that was aiming to do this was a crew fix deck. We might have talked about it on the podcast, and
we've been doing this long enough. We don't know.
Who knows? Well, the big idea with crew fix is that you can bank mana and shove it off into this like offshore Panama account that people can't get at. And it just kind of builds up. And if you're really clever, you can kind of track the type of mana if you want, like that Boseiju mana. It doesn't get stripped of its typing. It just kind of gets decolorized, and you can hold on to that stuff and use it later. I never really found that to be worth tracking, but you know, there's stuff, right? So the idea is that I would put cards like this down that let people draw extra cards and draw more cards and do their thing.
Yeah.
And that I would be interested in playing extra lands on my turn, and then if I didn't have any reason to use them, I would shove it off into this account. So I'd hold up a lot of mana. I mean, at one point I was running fucking Arborea, which is you don't do anything on your turn.
Including play a land.
Including play a land, because you kind of can play a land if you just tap your crew fix thing, right? Like you can kind of do it. You can launder that money away. But I wouldn't play that anywhere else. I can't think of a place I'd play Arborea today. But that was the idea. And then the other piece is that there was a lot of and there still are.
I considered putting it in my Miss Bumbleflower.
We're just like, let's just not have anything during my turn. Yeah. It was draw go. That was the strategy. Yeah. So yes, it had a lot of on-stack interaction. It was not impotent. Yes, it was saying, well, if people are going to draw more cards collectively more than me, I've got to have a way to walk away from that disaster. So it's the fact that crew fix can make it so that mana is never not spent. It's accumulating more and more over time. And then, of course, I had extra land plays in that deck. So those lands were realized quicker, which is really crazy with him, because that means it's like,
if you don't need it now, bank it for later.
And then the real big thing, I have an objective to actually win, and here's how I'm going to do it, was with all the card draw that was going on, I was going to force cards out of your game with these massive X spells.
Yeah.
Because they had printed one that said, target player draws this many cards and another target player mills. It was a crazy mill X spell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I hit the same person with both, with that's huge amount chunk of mana that I've been escrowing away.
Yeah.
But in an emergency, I could just give it to myself. And I made sure they were all instant. So in case you tried to do the CIA bust on my account, I would empty it. I had all this stuff laid out. I was like, I can launder it into mana. I can launder it into treasures. I even had Thrasios in the deck to be like, well, fuck this.
I just gotta go.
Yeah, I'm bailing. Like I'm shoving all my money in the bag and I'm getting out of here. Like that was my thing.
You're like, just as long as I don't bury it and it rots in the ground, Pablo Escobar style.
Yeah, and it worked out. It was a fun deck. And then Heliod happened, and I'm like, okay, well, both of these can't be in the same meta. And I ended up like tearing it down.
I didn't realize those overlapped.
They did. That's why I retired it.
Huh.
Yeah. The next time I try it is with the Council of the Four, and this is not a group hug deck. I wouldn't characterize it as one. But the idea with the Council of the Four is if somebody draws more cards than they are supposed to on their turn, I will see it and draw a card also. If somebody double spells, I will see it and create a knight.
Well, so let's hold on. I want to hold on this deck example, because I think this is illustrative of what is critical when you're potentially giving things away.
Yeah.
Is that there needs to be some way that you're capitalizing, right?
So here it is. So if I have Howling Mine down and then the Council.
Yeah.
Kyle draws 2, Andy draws 1, Brad draws 2, Andy draws 1,
right.
Zach draws 2, Andy draws 1. So by the time we get back to my turn, and this is the real kicker, is that when we get to my turn, Andy draws 2, and then Andy draws 1. So I actually pick up 4 cards.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm just keeping up. So the draw is the focus with this deck. It's not, okay, well, if I give out cards, then I got to find mana. That to me is the real limiter on card draw, is you have the mana to do what you're going to do with the cards.
Yeah, you can have a bunch of cards.
That's why Heliod was so potent, is that the mana was a non-issue. Like, it would just disappear from the problem. You would just, okay, well, I don't pay mana.
What are the color pips? I'll take care of those.
Right? Yeah, I'm the CEO. I just don't do anything. I don't pay for anything. So that's the idea behind that one. And then the other hook that I kind of built into it was I had a lot of things that saw a token enter, because white likes this. It likes creatures of power 2 and less. Enter, draw, creature, mana value. So I would draw cards even when they're double spelling, because I'd get the knight and set off the trigger. So I've merged the two things together. It's kind of like your Hope S time thing. I've taken 2 actions. I'm watching one.
Yeah.
I'm driving one and just watching the other.
Yeah.
And then even if I double spell on the turn, I draw an extra card, which sets off it's this crazy feedback loop between these 2 concepts. But you don't hear me sitting. And so there was a minute where I didn't run those cards, like the Howling Mine, what is it? The Crew Fix's Horizon or whatever.
Yeah, the Dictative Crew Fix.
Dictative Crew Fix, yeah. The group huggy, starty cards that let you draw an extra card every turn. I didn't run those for a while because I just kind of was like, my opponents will find clever ways to draw cards. And they did. But I got to the point where I'm like, yeah, these guys are 5 goddamn mana. I just want this to work every time. I just want to do it every time.
Yeah, get to work.
So I felt like I could weather the risk of shoving 6+ cards, 12. The longer the game goes, it's a lot. Like you guys are walking away collectively with a lot of cards.
But if you're keeping pace with the extra draw that's happening.
Sure. But who knows, like who knows what you're getting. And I don't know, right? I can't keep up with your mana. Green player with that deck, it's like, oh boy, they get a trample and then, So, but I just chose to adopt that risk and put it in. I'm careful not to put them out without the commander. I won't just do Howling Mine and
here we go,
I just
everybody.
won't do that. I'll do Commander, Howling Mine. Well, that's a double spell. Here's your night. Go. And then I'm con-sphinxing around the table. So the decks are really trying to do the thing I can think of where you're giving out things and you have a way to walk away with more of it. Mana is a hard one to give away. I think that is the most dangerous thing to give out to your opponents is extra land plays, stuff like Belby. Like it's very scary to give people mana because that to me is just the big. It's the limiter on all the decks. The more crazy sorceries, instants, creatures, the more shit they print into this format. I just, dude. One of the ones I'm always scared to give out mana.
One of the ones that's hard to think about. I like the card, but it's dangerous. Is Rites of Flourishing.
That one I'm terrified of
because it gives an extra card and an extra land play, and
if it said you could play 3 or something like that, it's too. I mean, it's an old school card, but it's too scary. I don't.
Oddly, it was printed in a commander. I think it was printed with Miss Bumbleflower. There's a commander printing from that set.
There was a minute there where there was so few extra land play cards in the game that was one people would just excuse using because they're like, well, I have green and blue, and people are going to run out of lands, and I don't know, But like burgeoning is a really good way to. You're loaded up with cards because you've got so many. Like burgeoning needs a heavy draw quotient to really be worth it, in my opinion, for the price and the card slot. So that's my experience personally with doing the group hug thing. But I'm always kind of thinking like this could blow up in my face. Like the Crew Fix deck was okay, but there was the aggro I could get rolled. I had the guy's 5 mana. Both are 5 mana. They're very delayed and before they start getting their thing in. And this was before we've got these like helpful curvy cards. I mean, I had like Death Touch blockers and things like that, like the O-Rain, like the Okame Adversary. I was really high on that card back in that time. And we could tutor too. So it was like, I had the Mystical Tutor to go grab these X spells that just finalize the thing.
or like Cyclonic Rift. I think that was
another one.
Cyclonic Rift era.
It was a huge one. Like I would just psych everything back into your hand, and now you're fucking chunked with a lot of cards, and
which then you're like Folio of Fancies on the other side of a
Folio of Fancies was my big card with that deck. So that's my experience with them. I would, but when you're hearing me say this, dear Bumbleflower pilot, I don't know if you want to do any of this. It doesn't, she's not worded to say, well, anytime like the Council of the Four is worded to do this a little, they're like looking for it almost.
Yeah. So
the connection is like direct where Bumbleflower, it's like, I don't know if I would do this stuff with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with your 2 examples, I kind of want to hold on those a little bit and just comment on like, if you're playing Bumbleflower, which I think she was advertised as a group hug commander, right? Because she had group hug cards in her deck list. And you candidly don't need any of the traditional group hug cards to play her successfully, right? But those 2 that you just described, there's 2 different things going on, right? Like with Crew Fix, you were giving yourself a wealth of mana that you could capitalize on the cards better than your opponents could. And you could use that to push people out, right? Like, so that's a central tenet there, that you didn't have to rely on the charity of, I gave you cards, please don't hit me. It's like, no, I've got mana to fuck you. And you have cards, so we'll see if you can weather it.
We'll see if you can do it. We'll see who goes. And with Council of the Four, it's like clearly you can see the benefit here.
Yeah,
right?
Like I'm getting more out of this than you are.
Like, a little bit. Like I could sit behind all these Howling Mine effects.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, okay. Like it's not, there's no scam. It's like, I mean, there is, but like it's very clear what I'm doing.
I don't have to transact with you. It's just the byproduct of me getting what I'm getting is you happen to get extra cards. But I don't have to get a deal out of you. Oh, I gave you cards. Like, no, you drew a fuck ton of cards. Like,
yeah, so did I.
You got what you bargained for. Right. Like, it's okay.
There's another angle you could take, and I remember seeing somebody say this a long time ago and thought, that's crazy. I don't know if I like that, but maybe this is you. These are just decks that are meant to accelerate the end of the game.
Yes.
Where you're not playing like a red deck that just drops people's life totals or something. I don't know. Like I would argue that a well-tuned aggro deck with Perforos will do the same thing, but sure. You're giving more, people are seeing more cards, they're getting more mana. You've just sped up the game. I think I don't adopt this position with a deck like this because I really like to see what the decks are supposed to do, mine specifically, right? Like I had a deck a while ago, and Chris is playing his Xyrus deck and he's just like feeding me cards. He's hitting me like crazy.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I'm not really seeing the actual weaknesses of this deck. And when I played it, and I had a really great game, and I'm not sure if I even won that game, but I had a great game. I was doing great. And then I go and play this thing another time, and I'm like, dude, the card draw I'm nowhere near where I need to be with card draw with this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I was thinking, actually. I hit my head when I made this thing? Like, so I played it again and thinking I was going to have a similar game. And
sure.
I'm a pretty experienced player. I know where the chips are coming from, but it completely warped my perception of that thing. So I don't love the idea of making a deck that's sole purpose is just to make the game go faster, because you and I have a different philosophy about play style and how
sure.
everybody wants us just to keep playing. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to keep playing here. They're not looking to, no one's got anywhere to be when they come play with us. Like,
right.
It's the thing they're going to do.
This is what we're doing
until they're just like, dude, I cannot keep my eyes open. All right, then you're excused. Is that good? Do you want to talk about your decks now?
Yeah, let's talk about these a little bit. These two that I want to present are theory crafted, and so they're not like, these aren't ones that have hit the table. I have done group hug a decent amount, so it's like I kind of know where I'm coming from with that, but I want to focus on a couple ideas because I really like what your two examples from practical experience illustrate, of one, creating advantage for you as the person giving out cards so you don't have to rely on charity coming back at you,
mm-hmm.
or two, creating some other advantage to capitalize on the card flow to yourself. There's this other angle. I was kind of sad when I took apart my Heliod the Radiant Dawn deck. And so, like I do in moments like that where decks are just so OP,
mm-hmm.
they need to be dogpiled, I go and have a little boohoo moment where I pick something stupid that would equally infuriate everybody so I can cram all my tools in it and have my like thumb to nose moment at everybody. So I went and crafted, I would never build these types of decks. Like they're just kind of a grief exercise, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I went and crafted a 4-color just group hug deck list, taking the perspective of, I don't care what the commander is in the zone. I just so happened to have pulled like a foil Atraxa Grand Unifier. So I was like, I'll put Atraxa in the fucking zone. Atraxa doesn't matter to the deck. Like I could use it if I needed to. This is the one that says when it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, there is a way to accelerate your access to cards potentially in the deck. But the big thing, I kind of took this and revised what I had built a few years ago or year or two ago to really focus on 2 categories that I want the listeners to be paying attention to. The first is the hugs category, where I've got, a lot of different cards, and there's enough of these that you can select different things than I have, but there's some of the main culprits that you might expect, a la the Howling Mine or the Font of Mythos or the Temple Bell. There's other things that you could use, like we've talked about Brina, so we can encourage people to go harvest cards off of attacking our opponents. There's the Anvil of Bogarden. This one has come down a little bit from where it used to be in price. It's still a pricey card. This one gives people no max, so they can start accumulating. So this starts to become attractive if you want to cast Windfall and just get people into huge hands, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wild, huh?
There's other cards for the attack stuff like Edric, Spymaster of Trest, or you could use Flumph. You know, I threw Flumph in here, so like go ahead and send a safe attack into my Flumph. And
yeah, people like Flumph. It feels more like a.
Yeah, so this one says whenever Flumph is dealt damage, you and target opponent each draw a card. So you can set up deals with that. There's a potential to harvest a lot of cards for yourself and opponents off of it. There's my favorite and Brad's least favorite, which is Forced Fruition. 4 blue enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, that player draws 7 cards. This is a pretty good accelerant, and it does my favorite thing that happens in Group Hug, which it starts to confuse people. There's too many options in hands with cards like Forced Fruition, and people start to make bad plays because they've got 30 cards in hand, and they're not incompetent deck builders. They have something.
But it's a lot.
But they start mistiming.
It's
things.
A lot, dude. It's a lot.
So, or they forget that they had a plan to use a card on this turn because they've been filtering through 30 cards in hand, and you've got the Anvil of Bogarden in play, so they didn't have to discard down to 7.
Yeah.
Or you don't have the Anvil of Bogarden in play, and so they're having to belabor what are the 7 best cards out of these 30 that I fucking have. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite ways to play.
God, dude, I keep getting stabbed. Fuck.
You're like, God damn this thing.
I'm almost like going to take this shirt off right in front of you. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
Well of Ideas, another kind of big mana one, but
yeah, that one.
You draw cards when it enters. It was one of our argument cards early days.
With Dustin. Yeah. Why would you do that? I guess he maybe had a point.
You might have been right, Dustin.
You might have been right, Dustin. Wherever you are.
But you just suck. You just suck. So
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You can't be right when you suck.
Yeah, you're just a turd.
You're never right if you suck, dude.
Wedding Ring, we had a good incestuous time with this the other night.
Yes, we were in a thruple.
Were you in the
thruple?
I was, and
you were in a thruple, and then I
Brad
wanted to be.
Brad kicked me out of it, or you kicked me out of it. One of you two.
Brad did. Yeah. Brad didn't like that. He was like, "I don't want this thruple to continue." And
if you haven't had the pleasure of playing with a Wedding Ring, it comes in, and it says if it was cast, target opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Then, whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring draws a card during their turn, you draw a card.
Yeah.
Same goes for life gain.
Yeah. Zach had a way to produce 2 tokens.
Yeah. So Andy got a token, I got a token.
So yeah, he put me, him and Kyle into a thruple with him.
You mentioned earlier, sometimes it's hard to like pinpoint the moment in a game. I'm pretty sure that card was the reason that the 2 of you got down to 1v1 because you were so
life gain. Yeah.
The life gain from it. Not the card draw per se, but the life gain off of it was because I think I got you both.
I was hurt.
You were both down below 20, if I recall.
Yeah, we were both hurting. Yeah.
Yeah. So because I had played a Mana Barbs and you were like, we cannot.
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots of ways to give people cards. Let's have this conversation for a second here, right? Like,
okay.
This type of group hug where it's just some permanent that gives people cards.
Yeah.
Is increasingly problematic as we go deeper and deeper into Commander being the flag bearing format of this game, right? Mm-hmm. Because of this old school attitude of like, I'm going to get charity for giving you cards. Those days are, if they ever existed, those are like Feldegriff days, like way back.
There weren't that many card draw in the zone commanders.
Yeah.
Like they weren't targeting, and there weren't roadmap commanders, super commanders, whatever you want to call them.
And the games went longer, right? Like just because
you had time to just put like a fucking Divining Top in all your decks just to like help your draw a little bit.
Those days are done. So like, but we're still using these cards and they're expensive. You go look at this category on this deck, it's $177. Now the Anvil of Bogarden's a big chunk of it, but it's still kind of a lot of money to get these group hug cards.
Interesting.
And I think you need to be able to create the transaction like you mentioned with, or the interaction like you created with Council of Four, or like look for things that maybe create some transactional experience. Or, you know, I don't know. I want to pass the mic back to you in case you have commentary on that.
No, because I'm good. You keep going.
Yeah, I think but we are in a weird era where people are still fond of these cards. Clearly, they're pricey, you know, like, I mean, the Chemi of the Crescent Moon is $8, $8 to $14, depending on your vendor that you go to buy it from. I mean, it's just this big chonky spirit for 2 that gives everybody draw on their upkeep, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and there's reprint density too. Like that, I don't know if they have the appetite to reprint stuff like this into their precious formats. Like it does things to them, I think, but
Horn of Greed is $22.
Yo.
So whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card.
Yeah.
You know, like
crazy.
Heartwood Storyteller is $5.
Yeah. Heartwood, I think, is being explored in the whatever meta to try to offset how.
Yeah. So whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of that player's opponents may draw a card. So, and if you're trying to deck people, like there's ones like that have language where it's may, right? Like, so you can't even deck people with a Heartwood Storyteller, right? Like,
they'll go to their last. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I just want to offer that note that like, if you're interested in group hug, I think we have enough things where you don't necessarily have to go down this particular route where there's just, you know, like we like to say a game's rule change enchantment-esque effect that just says people start their turn by drawing more cards, right? There might be other options for doing this. I liked the Crufix thing where you relied on X spells that shoved a volume of cards into people's hands at a moment chosen by you, right? Those, in that context, are way better than these permanents that are just giving cards away. But I think if you are doing this, this is the other category of people who are looking at this deck list want to pay attention to, which is cards that say when they draw. And the reason I bring this up is this is probably, if you are a Miss Bumbleflower player, you've probably pretty quickly learned that the Smothering Tithe is one of the best fucking cards to experience with that deck. Because it says, again, whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If they don't, you create a treasure. And they're not going to pay the 2 in all likelihood. So you're going to get a treasure. We have a volume of these. It just so happens a number of them are game changers. So they're going to push you across the line, right? Like Consecrated Sphinx where you're drawing 2.
Yes, these are just nuts.
Off of them drawing, game changer. So, but I will say it's worthy of being a game changer here because, you know, you say you've got the circumstances where somebody's drawing 4 at the start of their turn.
You're going to draw a lot of cards.
You'll draw a lot of cards. And it's a May. So if you want to build for that Labman win,
you can do it.
You can do that. Or you can just get
this
exposure.
Is like the who's who of fucking stuff, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the Orcish Bowmasters is the other game changer in this ilk, right? So
you're picking stuff off because of their draw.
Yeah, you can start destroying things or doing damage to players, like picking off life totals.
And get big army wow. Yeah.
And that is indeed the case. Big army wow.
Yeah.
But there's even other subtle ones, like even if it's just the Alms Collector. So if an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, like if you've got things set up appropriately, you could use that potentially to draw yourself some extra cards. Mangara, the Diplomat, getting their second draw, go grab your card. The Trouble in Pairs does this same thing, right? Then, of course, there's the Scrap Trawler and the Psychosis Crawler that are going to start lowering life totals for seeing these types of things. We talked the last episode, like if you're using red, you know, go get yourself a battery of Niv-Mizzets, right? Like, and allow your draw to be the thing that's giving you damage to do because you're hugging yourself in the process, right?
Right.
Like you can do that other side. Or, you know, like the Fate Unraveler, whenever an opponent draws a card,
so you're like converting to groups.
You're turning it into slug, right? Your hug is becoming a slug.
Yeah.
Yeah,
curiosity on these effects. Ooh,
sure.
daddy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Curse of Fool's Wisdom. You can curse one person to where whenever they draw, they lose 2 and you gain 2.
I haven't seen that one in a minute. You've tried to put that on me many a time. Back in the old days.
Yeah, because you were Niv-Mizziting hard.
Yeah,
it was like my Niv-Mizzet solution was the Curse of Fool's Wisdom.
Wild. I haven't heard that
because
one.
It has, here's the big reason why is it has madness. So you could wheel me into casting it.
That's crazy.
Was kind of my thing with it. So.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was my dream moment of thanks for the wheel, Andy. Yeah. Madness, Curse of Fool's Wisdom. Get fucked, bitch. And then Andy would print me out a certificate.
Yeah, I would, dude.
My recognition.
You will recognize as the one who is smart.
This is the big thing from this list. I don't know that I would play this. I wouldn't play this deck like a 4-color group hug, but this is the principle I think that is important here is like, is there a capitalization on you giving other people cards?
Yeah.
There's 15 cards I put into this deck.
There's just so many ways you could go about it. Like you could be like, well, I have a discard deck, but I'm going to just force a lot of draw on everybody and trigger even like a self discard where I am forced to discard things. And I end up getting a benefit for it, or anybody.
This is my Mardu
There's
deck.
a lot of directions you could go.
Right, like this is my Mardu deck. Is that I have a lot of discard in the deck, but I've put in Brina and Karazakar and Gix and all these things that are like, hey,
encouraging other people.
You can go get more cards. Just go attack somebody else to do it.
Yeah,
that's kind of a huggy sluggy type thing.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of where like let's think of hug more broadly than I'm just buying charity because I gave you cards.
Okay.
We're over that. We're not doing that shit. Like give people a reason. A good reason for you to go get cards is I've made you discard all your cards. My Mind Slicer just fucking died. Well, go fill your hand up. I've got Karazakar and Brina out.
Yeah, I hear you.
Go find them. I put Folio of Fancies in this deck because I like it. Also, one of my favorites in group hug decks, because you're going to draw cards pretty quickly.
Oh, no.
Is Approach of the Second Sun.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because this one says if it's the first time you cast it, you put it 7 cards down. And if it's the second time you've cast it, you win. Right?
Yeah.
So.
And then look at that ramp section.
I mean, lots of extra land plays.
Lots of extra land plays. I think that's a great idea. Don't you?
I absolutely do. Because guess what you're going to see a lot of in your hand when you draw a bunch of cards?
Lands. And it's going to feel great when you're playing twice as much as everybody else, sometimes more.
And
it's going to feel so good.
Also, side note, hidden in this deck is Heliod the Radiant Dawn. So you can flip that over and start basically free casting.
Yeah, off turn.
Or Omniscience. So you can just fucking free cast.
Yeah, that'll shut down anybody's illusions really fast about what the hell this was about. You get Omniscience and it's like, okay, well, here we go.
This one's this construction is very high mana curve, but the extra land plays, some of that stuff hopefully gets you there. And you can rely on yourself. You don't need to rely on others, and there's different ways to win, which is what I'm about. Let's look at another list that I have kind of put together with a different concept. This is less about the hug that Miss Bumbleflower ostensibly is about, and more about the kind of maybe peculiar
audience participation.
Yeah, player interaction that you are obliged
that you're
to
thinking you're going to get.
Yeah, that you think you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
So,
do you remember that Tom Green skit back in the day with the pizza for cheaper?
Oh, I forgot that one.
So there was this skit where he would follow pizza delivery guys around. He'd see him leaving like the Domino's or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever the Canadian equivalent is at the time. And he would follow them to their destination, and then he'd run up behind them with like a tackle box full of like pizza components and like dough. And he'd go, I'm just going to try to sell you a pizza for cheaper. Like just try to undercut. Because back then, like you were probably paying the pizza guy in cash. Like,
right.
This is like the
fuck off, send
late
the pizza
90s.
Back.
Yeah. So, and he ends up at this dude's house, and it's like the guy fucking lost his mind, dude. Like chased him off the property with a hammer kind of thing.
Dude, Tom Green was
He was kind of a beginning of something ballsy, that became, Jackass, which eventually became like all prank YouTube. Like,
but also kind of like the Borat side of things, like making fools of other people a little bit.
But that's what this kind of like feels like a little bit. Like I'm gonna try to sell you pizza for cheaper kind of thing. Like you're just injecting yourself into somebody's like game. Like they're gonna do I'm gonna give you a card. I don't want your card. I'm gonna give it to you.
I'm gonna give it to you.
You pull your tackle box out and there's pepperoni and like mozzarella cheese in it.
That's true though, right? Yeah. Bumbleflower is a pizza for cheaper.
It's like, maybe get the fuck off my lawn. I already ordered it.
Like, why are you on my porch? Fucking go away.
Yeah, is anybody gonna be like, well, hang on, sideboard, I'm gonna take all the draw out of my deck to make you relevant. All of it's gone. I'm going to move only gas in.
Right.
Now we'll play.
Right.
And now you really are my card draw. You really are my pizza for cheaper.
That's true, right? What an asinine thing to say. I'm your card draw. No, you're my card draw because I haven't had to use my card draw.
Yeah, I'll use mine when I need to do it.
Yeah, when you're fucking gone, I got myself. I'll be okay.
Sell you a pizza for cheaper.
So this other one that I've got is if you're more about just like, I want to have some kind of odd interaction or peculiar or unnatural, however you want to put it, interaction with your opponents.
Let's go with unnatural.
And
we ain't talking about a thruple.
Right. This ain't no wedding.
That was like Brad's joke. He's just like, this isn't right. This isn't right. He kept saying, this is not right. And then he ends up breaking your token.
I was mad. I was like, why me first?
Did you have already draw out there or something? Why did he break yours? That's weird. He should have broken either mine or.
I'm trying to remember. Had I played? Because I mean,
was the mana barb still out?
Was the mana barbs out? You dealt with it right away.
Yeah,
you were the only person that got touched by the mana barbs.
I know.
Thankless job.
It was a thankless job. I ate combat right after that,
which you had specifically said.
Pizza, Tiff came downstairs. Tiff was because she texted me later. She's like, I just love how like no one gives a fuck about that shit. Like she texted me later. I said, I mean, you didn't have to pay attention. It ain't you.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, I'm going to get rid of this fucking mana barbs.
You were
now,
like, I need dispensation.
But I really would like to, I don't know, not have a goddamn combat this cycle, please. Because I've been just getting like attacked. Yeah. I was in like the teens or something. And everyone's like, yeah, fine. And so I do it. And you're like, okay, fine. And then we get to Zach's turn and a combat's coming my way. It's just like, fucking what?
The other thing that happened during that game is there were like
coming my way.
There were like three of us goading people.
Oh, the goad was insane. Like Chris was just getting belted for no reason. Sorry, Chris. I guess I have to.
There's nowhere else to go and I must.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
That was an interesting one. Yeah, so unnatural player interaction.
Yeah, dude.
Cared in the shipwright.
I got to be real with you. This one's rough. This is a rough legend. What does it do?
So it's 3 green blue for an elf noble. It's a 3/4 for the power and toughness. Has vigilance. Bumbleflower folks.
Hello. That's why you signed up for Bumbleflower, right?
But it has secret counsel. So whenever Círdan and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right because it's not a
real word.
It's like Silmarillion shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it enters a battlefield or attacks, each player secretly votes for a player. Then those votes are revealed. Each player draws a card for each vote they received. Each player who received no votes may put a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield.
Really cool effect. If there was just a simpler way to do it. Because really it looks like you could pick one guy.
Yeah.
And as long as it ain't you, you could cheat a permanent into play.
But because it's a secret vote. You don't know.
You don't know.
If
somebody votes for you, you draw a card and you're like, dang, I really wanted to cheat this fucking portal to Phyrexia into play.
But no. Much like Bumbleflower, people are going to get cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. And you can kind of like press the button on how much this is going to happen.
Yeah. Because you can flicker. He's a Titan effect.
So
right, isn't he?
It is a Titan effect. It is on enter and attack. So I have made it into a blink deck. So there are
that's so
because you know me, I fucking gotta.
Yeah.
I have an out and back category that will do this. So it's a combination of instants and like the permanents that do it. So like Conjurer's Closet or Thassa that do the in-step flicker.
Kyle, do you want to make this commander? Let me just say something. I think I could stomach it, and you don't need my permission. You can do whatever you want. But like, I could stomach it if it was just end of turn you flicker.
You don't want the instance on other people's turns. I just really
don't need the fucking middle of our turn. We got to take a goddamn vote. Like if it's on your turn and your combat and your end of turn, I can handle that.
Let me tell you why you are right.
But off turn, bro. Oh God.
Let me tell you why you are right.
A disruption.
Because the Displacer Kitten is also in the list. Who says?
Yeah.
Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to one target non-land permanent you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control.
Yeah.
So you can cast a blink spell, have the Displacer Kitten effect go on the stack.
Yeah.
Resolve a Curadan vote. Then the flicker spell resolves.
We gotta go again.
Resolve a Curadan vote.
It's too much, dude.
So you are.
It's too much.
Absolutely correct.
It's too much.
It would be.
Because people are just going to shortcut the fuck out of it after a while. They're not going to be thoughtful about what they're doing. That's where you're pushing us.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, even if we are, it's going to take, maybe I'm wrong. This is just one where I'm like, the resolution of this trigger is too much.
I do not know at all how to predict the votes for this as a gold fishing exercise. I've just relied on rolling a D4 3 times to decide and count myself as if it rolls a 1, that's a vote for me. But because I have no idea how people would vote. And so I don't actually know how it would turn out, the volume of cards you would draw. And dear listener, it's probably different for you than it would be for me.
I'd probably, funnily enough, this is probably where I think it would go. What's the outcome if everybody votes for themselves and you vote for one other person? You get to put a permanent in, correct?
Yes.
So if Andy votes for Andy,
Chris votes for Chris.
Tiff votes for Tiff, and then Chris votes for Chris. Kyle votes for Chris.
Yeah. Chris draws 2. I put a permanent into play.
Okay. That's probably where this would head. Weirdly enough, I would probably build this like fucking Mr. Foxglove.
Which
her cousin or her boyfriend or whoever the hell he is, Miss Bumbleflower, Mr. and Mrs. Bumbleflower gloves.
I think it's going to make people conscientious of how many permanents and crazy permanents are in people's decks. Like, if you were playing a Spellslinger deck, I would never vote for you. Because I just want you to put a permanent into play.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put an extra land into play, Andy.
Yeah. That makes sense. I just don't know what I mean is like after a while, what do you call it? Decision fatigue, right? It's the same idea with like a jacked up hand that has 30 cards in it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like you just get flooded with too much information. Yeah. This one is, I guess, a little different in that like I'm just fatigued with deciding.
Well, and like what is
the secret? How do we do the secret thing?
Because of the secret thing, there's what's the mechanism for it, and B, I think it will fatigue people because it's like I don't know what your philosophy is because you can't say that. You can't say we just vote for ourselves.
But we could like between your triggers, like we could just know, kind of like the puff pass guy, the guy that draws 2 and you pass.
Yeah.
You could just we're just gonna hand him around, whatever. Like. You can't really stop us from doing that.
It's true.
But then you'll just go, well, okay, now that I know how they're going to vote,
but I can
warp it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You as the pilot can warp it.
And that's what I'm saying you would do. Like, I would build it like, okay, well, what's the thing they don't want me to do?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
And so I think that starts to get kind of interesting with like
true
what you
maybe some people
I think this is actually more, to me, I think it would actually be more interesting than what Miss Bumbleflower offers. Because the deciding who's going to draw a card, like this
it doesn't feel like
this to me is actually genuinely more interesting, but it is still interactive with your opponents. And you could brew the deck in a way that as you start to get acclimated to how your group plays around with the vote, you could tweak your deck to where you're built to benefit from it. Right? Like if I know you guys are always voting for me and I'm always going to draw, I'm like, well, okay,
that's huge.
Like I'm going to figure out like what to do with all those extra cards. But if you guys are voting for yourselves,
I'm going to try to get permanents.
I'm going to figure out what permanents you do not want me putting into play.
I guess my whole thing is like the destiny of all things in the universe is to descend from the complex to the simple. And like the more you're throwing this thing up, you're like, I can't imagine myself like being very scrutinizing about this trigger. And I think everybody's gonna be like, I just want to play my deck. was solved, and then you're like, okay, finally, I've cornered them.
I've solved it. I've solved what they're going to do.
I've taken over the secret council government,
which I think makes it so that it's pretty easy for you to manipulate how you're playing. Right?
So like, crazy, dude.
I think it would think it's
so much packed into that card. It's correct. It's wow, yeah. And attack.
And on attack. With a 3/4 that's vigilant, like dude, a lot of times you're not always gonna have a place to attack, but a lot of times you will. This legend I think would be really quite interesting to do. I do think you're right. If you're gonna do the flicker route, probably figure out the boundaries of your play group's patience.
Yeah, because right now I'm looking at 15 ways I just want to shove you off the game.
And a couple of them are, some of them are like cheeky. Like I put in like a Meneldor Swift Savior, right? So this is a 3/3 with flying. It says when it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to one target creature you own, then return it to the battlefield.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I've got a combat trigger that allows me to do it on my turn.
Right.
I put in the Sentinel of the Pearl Trident in case I got...
It's clever. Yeah, it's clever.
Somebody says I end up putting a permanent in. Okay, I'm going to do another trigger, right? So it's because it will...
Or you protect your command.
Yeah, I can flash it in because it has flash. So it's these aren't maybe the ideal picks, but I think it's a tricky dick thing to do. It's kind of fun and
hilarious.
Yeah, but then there's the stupid stuff, like I said, the Displacer Kitten or the Deadeye Navigator.
Yes.
Which, and this is not to mention the fact that, you can do the 2-target thing like Blur.
It's too strong.
And Archaeomancer could be in the deck.
That's on forever. It's too strong.
So now it's just like, let's just keep voting, everybody. Let's just keep voting, everybody.
It's too strong of a smell. It's not even what you're doing. It's just too much. It's Bacon House.
It's Bacon
House. I can't. It's too strong. Put it away.
But I do think this isn't the group hug route, even though there's group huggy. There's a little bit of that juice here, but it's the bizarre opponent interaction.
Yeah.
Which I like that. Let's take, I think you won't get as hated as Miss Bumbleflower will do it. And we're color cropping a bit. We're taking a color out of it. That's what I got in terms of some deck alternatives for people.
Yeah.
Here, try to capitalize on the group hug if you really want to do a group hug thing. Or if you want unusual player interaction, find something funky like Kierden,
Yeah, there's always ways to politic with every deck that you have. Maybe think about that of like, how can I, if that's what you're after, if it's just like I draw cards from the command zone and this thing gets big and I like this color pair.
Yeah, then just spare us the fucking facade. Then
spare it. Just be like, look, she's gonna get fucking huge, dude.
Yeah.
There's a real big bunny.
My point is, I'm gonna fucking spank you with a bunny. Like that's what I'm here for.
There, and you got to choose who you're gonna give the card to, and then it really becomes more like I guess a more pure experience for everybody. Of okay, yeah, and I don't know. If I were you, I'd pick the person with the least amount of mana to give the card. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was just going full bore with this thing.
If I did do Kierden, that would satisfy 2 of my categories I like, which is having a blink deck and a huggy deck.
There it is. Yeah. And when you're trying to have a tight knit roster.
Would scratch 2 itches.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that was successful?
I'm good with that. Put Bumbleflower away. I don't know if I'll put mine away, but put yours away.
You fuck.